Hi there, my name is Vince DeRay, and I'm going to give you some timeless piece of advice. Be yourself. You've all heard the expression, like it's timeless advice. Luckily today we live in an era of smartphones and social media and just technology in general, where it becomes easy and at some points necessary to put ourselves out there, project our feelings, speak our minds, and be ourselves. As technology has evolved, we have adapted. Through the magic of the internet, we now have massive social communities full of exciting new ways to share, complete with posts, messages, stories, filters, streaks, push notifications, the list goes on and on. But most importantly, there is endless content at our fingertips. We have a whole new way to be ourselves. Look at that. While this content load may seem like a dream come true to a lot of people, in order to stay focused on ourselves and our time, we have to choose what is worth our attention. Through incredible AI and big data from the tech companies responsible for creating our favorite apps, we continue to be fed more of what we want and less of what we don't. And it just perfectly suits our individual interests. And obviously that's where our attention is going to be going because it's tailored to us individually. This is what draws us to like the recommended section on YouTube or the personalized playlist on Spotify, the quick ads on Snapchat, and who can forget people you may know. It seems to me like technology knows us more than we do. But does it? The big tech companies definitely redefined how we consume content, but has it also altered how we view ourselves? The short answer is no. We know ourselves and we know what we want to see. They've just kind of learned enough by our online habits what to give us more and more of what we want, and less of what we don't. I mean, it makes sense that we're more drawn to these apps simply because I know who I am and I know what I want. But what if we are too young to understand what we want? What if we don't know who we are just yet? What if we haven't learned how to confidently love, accept, and respect ourselves yet? Or we haven't figured out our purpose or even what we're passionate about? What if we don't have the support from a good home life or empowering friends or inspiring teachers? The list goes on and on. We haven't really thought about long-term success because we don't know what that feels like, looks like, or even feels to us. We may have yet to find our favorite hobbies or pastimes or shows or movies or recipes or stories in general because we're so young we haven't really had time to really explore these possibilities. What if we worry we're making the right choices every day to get closer to this utopian idea of success that we have no clue what to expect? These are real problems that are monstrously huge, pressing, and terrifyingly relevant to today. And the fear of not knowing how to answer these and the fear of not knowing if we'll ever be able to answer these is something that every young person goes through and worries about on a day-to-day basis. But they'll all be solved through education and crappy jobs and awful bosses and failure, self-reflection, like the list goes on and on. What I'm saying is we'll find ourselves with time. And for young adults, our time is so incredibly important and valuable, and something that I think we take for granted today because of the accessibility of all this content at our fingertips. Now, how do those two relate to each other? I'll get into in a sec. To truly develop who we are, we need time not just with our friends and family and our classmates and our coworkers and our teachers, acquaintances, like strangers, the list goes on and on. We mostly need to look towards ourselves. We need time for ourselves. We need to be alone. We have to learn how to have conversations with ourselves on who we want to be, let our minds wander, get imaginative, and get bored. We find new hobbies, explore new ways of thinking, and figure out what intrigues us enough to stop when we're bored. We find this stroke of inspiration from something that we would never really think about because it's just we haven't really thought about it because of how bored we are. Or just how busy we are, excuse me. Being by ourselves can be really lonely, but this is how those scary issues that I mentioned solve themselves. It's through self-reflection and time to ourselves. But what if we were never alone? Would we still figure it out? Enter social media on smartphones to developing minds. Oh man. Aw shit, dude. I'm finally not alone anymore. I'm never bored anymore. I don't have to stress about school, my future, or purpose, or long-term success. It's like I've escaped my worries and entered a world of possibilities, complete with social interaction, personalized entertainment, and a feeling of belonging during a really difficult time in my life. I can finally be myself, and there's an online community supporting me every step of the way. Sounds amazing. Where do you think my attention's going to go? My struggle with growing up, or this new exciting, colorful world? This personalized bubble listens to me, and when it feels like no one's in my house or in my school that actually understands who I am as a person, they're there for me. It tells me not to worry about my problems. I can have things my way. I can follow the friend and family that I want to see content from. I can scroll through the videos that I want to see that were personalized or personally made for me. I can get my news from people like me, control what I say at every opportunity I can, and finally feel like I'm enough. But I'm not enough. I watch other people live their lives, and they're all beautiful and having fun and have good jobs and have funny friends and travel to exotic places and have strong relationships with other beautiful people, and they're talented too, and they've got great teeth, and they dress really well, and like the filters are all really, really good, and like they're just happy. And I want to be that happy. But I'm not. But one day I'll learn to be happy. One day I'll learn how to love myself. I'll get stronger friendships with people who care about me. I'll learn to have a conversation with myself. I'll learn to have a conversation with others. I'll learn to look people in the eye. I'll be less distracted. I'll focus on who I want to be and what my passion is, but not now. Not now. I don't want to do it now. I'll figure it out later. There are other pressing issues that I can worry about right now. But when that day comes, it'll be great. I think. Now, how am I supposed to love myself when everyone else is better? When I see all of these beautiful people living their best lives, I want to be like that. But I'm not like that. So I'm going to make it look like I am living that kind of life. I still can't help but watch my friends and family succeed, and I wonder what that feels like. Why can't I succeed? This is all my fault. But here's the thing. It's not. Teenagers are more vulnerable to what people think of them. Unfortunately, we have always compared ourselves to others. Like looking at success of our peers and gotten down about ourselves has never been easy today, though. We literally carry this lens of envy and self-doubt everywhere we go, and it's killing us. As if the pressure to succeed, find happiness, and live the picture-perfect life wasn't already depressing and stressing teenagers out, we are now distracted by personalized content, a polished self-image that's not really real, and a giant pressure to feel like we belong and matter. And this is no fault of our own. Tech companies have to make money, so they create these apps, and they do that by getting people to stay on these apps. And if that means feeding instant gratification that exploits teenagers' social vulnerability, then so be it. Unfortunately, giving us too much of a good thing sets us up for failure in the real world. The real world is full of failure, rejection, loneliness, terrible things, but it's also full of rewards. For hard work, for job satisfaction, we find fulfillment, we find success. But rather than focusing on how to overcome social anxiety to increase mental health, these apps give us a pretty easy and cheap substitute for the real thing. These substitutes for friendship have capitalized on our developing minds and have become our primary focus, and we have let that happen They've deliberately made consuming content addicting. Facebook wasn't making money off of status updates of like your grandma and relatives messaging each other. No, they had to change their business model and find new ways to study us so they can sell us ads, so they can make money. And it makes sense from a business side, but as a consumer, we sometimes don't even realize it because of how brilliant they are. We don't mind like sitting through the ads if it means achieving what we think is real connection, or endless dog videos that'll make us happy, or the news we want to see. This is really frightening. Adults have developed brains and know how much their time is worth and how much their attention is worth, and they know what they want and how to think for themselves. They also know how success feels from hard work and productivity. Most importantly, they know how to be themselves. Teenagers are still learning that, though. They have so much to learn about themselves, and these distractions, like the instant gratification that comes from social media, isn't going to make them think long term. They're going to be worried about the now. They're going to be worried about making themselves look as best as they can now. They're going to be worried about making the friends that they have right now. And that's always been an issue for teenagers. It's just now it's all honed in one convenient location for us to stare at for hours on end. What I'm here today to offer is not an overall solution to internet addiction or low self-esteem or mental health within the teenager lifestyle, especially within social media. And I'm also not here to, go against everything about social media and say that everything that it's done so far, especially for self-esteem in myself and also my friends and family, that's saying that it's, not like we can't enjoy it because of that reason. I'm here to talk to you guys about the supplemental literature that we have to educate our teenagers with and give them the mindfulness to use social media effectively and leverage their personal lives and their personal beliefs and their personal goals over these short-term, insignificant things. I've developed wEyes, which is a mobile platform housing shared video and writing to foster discussion on mental health in teenagers within the social media landscape. Now, what does that mean? If you were to look over my digital prototype, I outlined a little bit about what it was going to be looking like. But based on this presentation so far, you may guess that what I'm offering is some angry old man's rambling about why phones are bad or millennials are killing our economy or something like that. But it's not an anti-social media statement whatsoever. It is not a war cry against cell phones, millennials, or technology either. It is a community designed to increase mindfulness and sensitivity for young adults and their relationship with social media. The more addicting features an app offers, the more teenagers will continue to go back again and again. And if they don't realize this, they'll continue this cycle forever and ever. If these apps continue to grow among teenagers, the vulnerable and insecure will suffer. They will not be able to learn how to focus, think for themselves, provide for themselves, or love themselves, which can lead to depression, anxiety, eating disorders, or even suicide. We can prevent these apps from controlling teenagers by putting the power back into the user and not the app. These apps were created for staying in touch with friends and family while you were away, but we've allowed it to become a better alternative for real human connection. Children may not be able to grow up knowing basic interpersonal communication and what long-term success feels like because they grew up chasing this short-term satisfaction. So with wEyes, we want teenagers to learn something about themselves their news feeds won't tell them. How to be productive, empathetic, and attentive to their long-term success in the midst of an era dominated by social comparisons, filters, or constant distraction. So much content is shared and spread throughout social media, it's time that social sharing focuses on mental health. wEyes is divided into 3 distinct tabs: video, reading, and discussion. Each post is democratized to show the highest user-voted pieces of content at the top, so that the most relevant and pressing breakthroughs will climb to the top and save the user's time by offering a different way of thinking in the process. So how do we do that? through engaging shared video and reading that teaches developing minds how to correctly leverage their online attentiveness so their real life is just as fulfilling as their digital life. We must ensure that each piece, whether it be a video or article, has to teach specific actions, and advice that will foster mental health and a better grip on the larger scope of success. Staying away from the pressure of right now that plagues social media users already. We want to provide information and support so that they can decide for themselves if the internet use, the social media use, or technology use has had a harmful effect on them or not. If a user has a question or story or thought to share about a personal story, of course, about mental health in the digital world, they can turn to the third section of the platform, which is discussion with other users. A common social media trend is creating a space where total strangers can connect and feel less alone. And this is a positive takeaway that we want to borrow for this social media educating platform. They can openly discuss topics that they're struggling with that focus on embracing technology, but in a more smart and efficient way, and that will lead to stronger interpersonal relationships and a better way of life. So it's time to wisen up about what we put our eyes through daily. Let's use social sharing for good so we can learn the mindfulness needed to be ourselves. Thank you.